Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are discussing how to get your life back by specifically freeing up 8 hours a week using Data 360. So, I'm Cole Fisher. I'm Strategic Solutions Lead here at ListEngage.
And my name is Julie Marques. I'm head of strategic consulting at ListEngage. And we couldn't be more excited to share with marketers some tips on how to get some time back in your day and make your lives less busy. But before we get into those powerful Data 360 tips, we wanted to take a moment and really unpack the concept of busy. We know marketers are busier than ever. Your calendars are jam-packed. You're doing so many different things just to get your marketing campaigns out the door. But we really want to challenge you to think about, it's not so much about being busy, but about being productive, ultimately producing ROI for your organization as fast as possible. Because as we go through these Data 360 tips, there are going to be certain features that may not sound like your job today. Data 360 really represents a different way for marketers to do marketing tasks, to think about segmentation, to think about campaigns. And it may feel a little uncomfortable at first. It may be that there's a bit of a learning curve. But I think you're going to see as we go through this presentation that there are such opportunities to accelerate your actual production of ROI that it's really just going to open up a new world for you. So before we get into that, Cole, how are marketers on average today spending the time in their week?
Yeah, so let's break down what's occupying a marketer's week here. This is a study that's compiled over 700 marketers by funnel and marketing profs. And so if we start at the bottom here, sure, we can always gripe about the organization or the tools we use, but that's really not where our biggest problems lie. You'll notice 31%, that third line up, are worried about their team's skill set. And what's even worse is that people are being honest in this, in this study. 32%, slightly more, say, forget about the team. I'm worried that I don't have the skills required to do the job. And the reason is, if you look at every line above that, it's because of data. It's data quality, it's data availability, it's data aggregation, even relying on or waiting on data teams. And I'll openly admit that when I chose marketing in our undergrad, when I filled out applications, the things I bragged about on my resume, that collecting data from disparate systems, data cleansing, building out dashboards that no one would look at until 5 minutes before a meeting that, when they needed to be urgently changed last minute. None of that was in the job description, nor was in the skills that I was looking forward to developing. And what's worse, if you look at the top right here, the fact is that nearly 2/3 of this work could be automated. A human shouldn't be doing these tasks, let alone a marketer. So it stands to reason that there's a lot of potential within our data and Data 360 for marketers to save time and headaches. So what we're going to do in this presentation is we're going to cover 4 areas where Data 360 can help us save substantial time. And that's in segmentation, personalization, reporting, and workflow. So for marketers, I'm sure these tasks sound super familiar. You either don't have the access or the technical capabilities to query the audiences yourself, or you took it upon yourself to learn SQL, and now the whole team and all the audiences depend on you. And then when you do build suppression lists or try to query send history, it times out on the 29th minute. So just spoiler alert, you have better things to do with your time. So of course, Data 360's immediate value is its unified data model. It takes all those disparate sources and harmonizes them into a single view of the customer in a DMO, a data model object. So one record, one truth, no VLOOKUPs. And then if your Salesforce footprint allows, there's also the trifecta where Informatica handles data quality and governance. It cleans and catalogs what comes in. MuleSoft handles near real-time integration, so it's capturing live signals from your API endpoints. And then Data 360 sits on top as the harmonization and activation layer. It's where the customer profile lives and where you act on it. But what's really interesting for marketers is when it gets into like Visual Builder. And so this lets you drag and drop attributes, attribute filters to build segments No SQL, no tickets, no waiting. And then Einstein segmentation creation. This actually uses natural language processing to understand your segment needs. So you literally just describe your audience in plain English. So give me all the loyalty members who live in the Northeast region who purchased within the last 90 days, but haven't opened an email in the last 30. So Einstein builds it. And then what used to take a SQL query, a couple of back and forths with your data team, and probably a timed out send log run, now that's a single sentence. And then last thing on this is there's a workflow habit that will save you hours every week going forward. If you build base segments for your most queried groups, say something like all active subscribers or current loyalty members or whatever you pull most frequently, then you build nested segments on top of them. You're not rebuilding from scratch every time. You're just refining them slightly. So it's kind of like the difference between cooking from scratch every night versus having a gourmet chef serve up your favorite dishes. So one of the most common hurdles we run into is our data team won't let us copy the data that we need in Salesforce. Zero copy solves that. And so instead of duplicating your data in Data 360, Data 360 just reaches out and reads the data directly where it lives. So be it in Snowflake, Databricks, et cetera. So you're being given read access to the data you need without having to move data, change governance rules, or pester your IT or data teams. Then there's also clean rooms. This is for when you want to analyze data with a third party outside of your company. And so say that might be a media vendor or an agency partner or something like that. So without having to expose sensitive data and running through, NDAs and legal hoops and anonymizing data and stripping things out before you share, you can still have all access to all of the insights, but nobody has insight into the raw data itself. Last thing here is just channel activation. So of course, you have near real-time activation throughout the Salesforce clouds like marketing, CRM, commerce. There's also zero copy, webhooks, batch file drops. So there's everything under the sun. One thing I'll point out here is that ad activation is becoming a lot more common directly from Data 360, especially for those of us marketers who are used to leveraging Ad Studio. And this is just the ability to create segments and activate directly from Data 360, or even build lookalikes and not have to go through an ESP and then send to the ad platform. So it's just kind of cutting out the middleman there. And then before we move on here, I just want to point out the reason we cover segmentation this in depth is because it's one of the quickest ways for time savings. We actually have a customer who is leveraging these capabilities, and we've reduced a process that originally took them 3 weeks of matching individuals across like multiple accounts, regions, and lines of businesses, pairing online and offline purchase histories, running those up against offer management, and then establishing product fitment within those offers. So we've now taken a process that was 3 weeks and cut it down to a single hour from ingestion to activation. So when we say saving 8 hours, we're not embellishing here.
Wow, that is awesome. Marketers love segmentation. I would say maybe equally we love personalization and content, right? So that's what we're going to go into next. And probably today you are spending way too much time on tasks like consolidating files to figure out the right contact address, troubleshooting personalized content blocks that aren't rendering correctly, spending countless hours writing campaign briefs and then meeting with team members and revising those campaign briefs. So here's how Data 360 is going to help. So the first feature is something called contact point value resolution, which sounds like a lot of words, but really it's a simple concept, and it relates back to what Cole discussed around identity resolution. So the heart and soul of Data 360 is taking in data from disparate systems, running identity resolution, and resolving identities into unified profiles with all the important metadata wrapped in each unified profile. When it's time for a marketer to actually activate into the marketing execution channel, What contact point value resolution allows you to do is set up business logic so that you're actually sending to the right contact address. And, today it's not uncommon for us to have 5, even 10 email addresses associated with one individual. Well, we want to make sure we're getting to the right email address using logic. And that's really at the heart of personalization, right? Right person with the right message at the right time. So going deeper into personalization, first concept I want to make you aware of in Data 360 is that it runs on different data layers. So there's kind of a base or standard data layer where most of our resolution is running that doesn't have to be real time. We've got maybe weekly or daily resolutions happening for data that it's not mission critical for your campaigns that it's real time. But Data 360 also has streaming real-time layer that is available to marketers. And we want to be careful how much we use it because it is more expensive to use streaming real-time data via credit consumption. It's going to consume more credits, but it is there. So this allows you to do important campaigns like, say, abandoned cart. We want to make sure that all of our data on that cart and what was abandoned and what was purchased is 100% accurate at the time that we send, so that we're sending the right message that's going to resonate. Kind of going hand in hand with that concept is data graphs. So the graphic is there on this slide. Maybe you've seen this before. It's a really pretty picture, spiderweb graphic that Salesforce likes to use, but it's actually much more than just a pretty graphic. It's really a very powerful personalization tool. What data graphs allow marketers to do is serve up the important data that's relevant to a personalized campaign on kind of a higher level. Because if you think about Data 360 and the value proposition of resolving all these identities and ingesting all of this data and harmonizing it, we've got hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of data tables. And so if your personalized campaign requires the system to crawl through all those tables and find the right data, it's going to time out. Your personalization is going to fail. But with data graphs, we're actually serving this up at a higher level so that we can grab that data and provide that personalized experience. And then finally, I wanted to talk about AI-powered content generation. So Agentforce is the Salesforce tool for AI. Agentforce works hand in hand with Data 360. Of course, you can't have a great agentic experience without trusted data to inform and ground that experience. And so advanced marketers are using Agentforce, for example, to draft knowledge articles to better inform and ultimately curate agentic experiences. They're also using Agentforce to create campaign briefs using natural language, refine those campaign briefs, even write copy for their campaigns, saving lots and lots of time.
Yeah, so let's talk reporting where marketers spend way too much time. So this scenario, I'm sure, sounds all too familiar for marketers. Email data lives in Marketing Cloud. All your web data lives in Google Analytics. Revenue is in Salesforce, and then your paid media is scattered across all your individual ad platforms. And then some poor unlucky soul, quite possibly you, has to go in every Monday morning and download CSVs and copy and paste into a single spreadsheet. And, sounds like a blast. Or one of my favorites is sales calls revenue closed won. Finance says revenue is recognized revenue. Marketing says revenue is pipeline influenced. And that's before we even get into direct or indirect attribution. And all I know is whatever number you're pulling is probably wrong. So Data 360 eliminates that ritual of Monday morning CSV downloads. When the data model is unified, everything is automated and reporting reads from one place. The number is the number. And then calculated insights. This sounds like, if I'm being honest, a feature that's kind of boring until you really understand what it's actually replacing. So right now, every time a dashboard loads, it might be running a massive aggregate query across millions of rows in real time, which is slow, expensive, and can be inconsistent in its results. Calculated Insights pre-compute these roll-up metrics so that when Tableau or CRM Analytics or whatever pulls a number, it's pulling from a single, simple single table lookup. So that means faster dashboards, lower compute costs, and consistent numbers every time that tool is reading from it. Tableau's semantic layer is how we solve the problem of what is revenue, like we talked about earlier. So this actually maps data into business-friendly logic that everyone agrees on before it actually reaches the dashboard. So sales can have their dashboard and call revenue closed won revenue, and then finance can have revenue be recognized revenue. Same with marketing being, pipeline influenced or whatever it is. And then the semantic layer knows what each one means and surfaces the right number to the right team in the right dashboard. So you get one platform, multiple correct views, and then zero arguments or last minute changes right before the meeting to whatever that metric is supposed to mean. So the last one on here is for sales, service, and operations users. So CRM analytics provides insights directly inside the workflow itself. So if you haven't done this already, try to create an individual customer 360 dashboard. It's embedded right inside the contact record, and it shows in real time things like loyalty balances or transactions or behavioral histories or whatever it might be. And so there's no tab switching, no separate BI tool, no swivel chair. The data is right there where the rep is already spending their time.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's talk about the final category, which is workflow, which I feel like maybe is the underrated, under talked about area, because it's not a sexy feature in a lot of cases. It's really just getting things done faster because the system makes it easier for you to navigate and get stuff done faster. And many marketers are spending way too much time going from one system to another, creating assets with time-consuming multi-step builders, duplicating work just because the org requires it done a certain way that your current stack can't accommodate, or tracking down consumption data or any other data that lives outside the tool. So before we get into this list, I wanted to mention that if you aren't, as a habit, looking at the Data 360 release notes, which typically come out on a quarterly basis, I would recommend that you do that. I look at them every release, and I'm always impressed by how many small incremental updates are getting made to the UI or the user interface. The developers at Salesforce really realize how impactful small incremental changes can be ultimately to how fast you can get things done, how intuitive the navigation is, how many clicks it takes you to get a thing done. And so during those release notes, they go into detail about them. Each individual one doesn't sound like a big deal, but every quarter, a bunch of these are coming up. And, over time, that's really going to affect you in a big way in terms of how fast you're able to get tasks done. Now, going from small incremental changes to a big new change, a Data 360 agents is something new you're going to start to see in Data 360. And this is an agent right inside Data 360 that's going to allow you to use natural language prompts to do common Data 360 tasks like create a segment. Multi-org and sandbox support. So Salesforce has really been innovating around how to make Data 360 more compatible with enterprise, complex requirements and technology stacks. And up until, about a year ago, having more than one CRM, Salesforce CRM org within your tech stack required you to have more than one Data 360 org because it was a one-to-one match. Well, about a year ago, Data Cloud 1 came out, and this allows you to create a home org and then companion orgs that will line up with your Salesforce CRM orgs. So big problem solver there. Sandbox support is also, or sandboxes, I should say, are now available as well for businesses that require that safe space to develop features before they roll into production. And along with that, data masking is also available for sensitive PII that you may be working with. And then finally, consumption transparency. So as we alluded to before, Data 360 runs on a consumption model. And so, especially folks in marketing operations, you want to keep track of how much consumption you're doing, how much is left in your bucket. And so there's a feature called Digital Wallet now that allows you to serve up that information right within the tool. And you can also set up alerts. So if your consumption, if you want to be alerted that your consumption has hit a certain level, you can set up that alert, and that will save you even more time.
So here's how we're saving 8 hours a week. And again, we're not embellishing when we say that. So segmentation, no more ticket queues, no more SQL, no more send log timeouts, just reusable base segments. Let's call it 2 to 3 hours a week. Reporting, one source of truth, pre-computed metrics via calculated insights, and no more debates about metrics. That's another couple of hours right there. With personalization, right contact information, real-time offers, and AI-generated briefs, probably another 2 hours. And then lastly, which Julie just covered, workflow, agentic task automation, multi-org flexibilities, sandbox capabilities, another probably 1 to 2 hours. So when we say 8 hours, guys, we're lowballing it here. It's not just something that sounds pretty. So
yeah, so hopefully we've inspired you marketers on how to save time. ListEngage supports clients with their entire Data 360 journey, from planning to implementation to ongoing support. So feel free to reach out to us if we can answer any questions for you or help you along your journey. Thanks, everyone.